Welcome to the Limitless Podcast. The Limitless Podcast is centered around exactly that, being limitless. Hunting, fishing, fitness, nutrition, adventure, disabilities. What may be covered during the Limitless Podcast will be, well, limitless. Stay tuned for this episode of the Limitless Podcast. Hey, it's time for another episode. This one's going to be a really good one, multi-layer. We're going to say for this episode. First thing we're going to do is run through show sponsors for everybody. Again, I like to stress that the 6 show sponsors that we have for the Limitless Podcast, they're solely for your benefit. They're all companies that I believe in. It's gear that I use or products that I use, I trust. But there's no kickbacks to the Limitless Podcast whatsoever. These codes are purely for your benefit. So first one is Hunting Day Coffee. That's a 10% discount with them on any order. That's limbitless10. We have Phelps Game Calls. That is a one-time use code for you. Your entire order, not one item. It is a 20% discount. That's limbitless20 at Phelps website. On Point Adventure Foods. They are a PA-based or Pennsylvania-based freeze-dried backpacking meal company. Stellar food. I love their food. Their strawberry shortcake is ridiculous. They are a 10% discount on any order. That's limbitless10. We have Vortex Optics. That's a 25% discount from Vortex. The catch is they don't deal directly with consumers. So you go to eurooptics.com, any Vortex product on eurooptics.com, that is a 25% discount. Listen in for that code. It's a good one. VTXLMTLS25. Again, that is for any Vortex product, 25% off at eurooptics.com. Then I have a retired Navy buddy of mine who took over a hot sauce company from his late brother. It is he loves this, a boutique small batch hot sauce. That is the Love Sauce. And that is a 10% discount on any $12 order or more. limbitless10 is your code. And last but not least is Wilderness Athlete. They are offering you a 20% discount on their website for any Wilderness Athlete product. And that is limbitless20. And again, I want to stress that if you use those codes, there is zero kickback to the Limitless Podcast. These are purely for your benefit. Last thing that I want to talk about today is for my hunting this year, my backcountry adventures, which I have several great events planned. I am sporting a portable solar panel for the first time this year. And that happens to be the new Dark Energy 3-panel 18-watt Spectre. I returned home from a Acadia National Park vacation with my wife and had this sitting on the doorstep. I haven't even unboxed it yet, but I'm really excited about doing some tests with this and getting it out into the backcountry. Their power packs are fantastic. I've been running their power packs through some testing the past couple of months. Really impressed with them, and I'm really looking forward to combining those with this 3-panel solar panel. And the first trip that I'll have it on will be in Idaho the last 10 days of September, packed in, chasing some elk around with a buddy of mine. So with that said, this episode, I have the handsome Norseman redheaded face sitting in front of me. Well, I shouldn't say a red-headed face. It's more of a nice red beard. Blake from Badlands is here, and we're going to spend the next 45 minutes to an hour talking to you guys about layering and Badlands products that either he's using or promoting or that I'm using, how we use those tools in our hunting environments and what's available to you as the end user. So Blake, welcome to the Limitless Podcast, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Aaron. It's been a long time coming to get on here. So excited to chat with you and the listeners about gear, layering, a little bit of everything. There's nothing I love more than talking gear. So this is great.
Yeah, me too. And we both actively monitor the Badlands Facebook page. And for any listeners out there that happen to be a fan of the Red Skull, if you're not aware, there is a Facebook page. It is a private page that is dedicated to Badlands and guys that use the product, and we share a lot of information on that page. But it's surprising to me, Blake, how many guys are really uneducated when it comes to layering their clothing and how beneficial that is in their hunting environments in all weather.
Yeah, yeah. Even in this day and age, it's there's still a lot of confusion and maybe not enough education about that out there. But yet, like you said, that forum, and just to differentiate there's the Badlands Facebook page where we post stuff, but then there's this private forum group that you're mentioning, which is probably even a better source of information than what we put out because it's people using the gear, sharing tips, tricks, even trading and swapping gear. So super cool. So yeah, if the listeners do go find that Badlands fans forum page, they'll have to do an invite and then get accepted into that group. But it's well worth the time because there's so much information being swapped there. But yeah, going back to layering, I mean, it's not a new concept. I mean, outside of the hunt space, mountaineering brands and tech performance brands have been harping on it forever, right? Like we should use technology to benefit us as much as possible in whatever aspect you're doing. And human athletic performance is exactly the same. There's been such fabrics have come such a long way from basically everything being wool or cotton over the years to so many more options now, evolutions in the wool itself. And you're right, learning how to layer for any kind of hunt is crucial. And I'm happy to share some tips there. But uh, all too often, we kind of hear, oh, I just do this type of hunting. It's not all that important. Or I just go sit in a tree and I've always just bought something off the rack at Walmart and it's fine. It works. And we understand that. And um, all we can do is educate and tell people the benefits of how you could possibly be even more comfortable and even more effective if your clothing and apparel is not working against you, but actually helping you. The way I like to think about it is the better performing my apparel is for my body, the longer I can stay on the hunt, right? How many hunts have been cut short because you got a little too cold or you were uncomfortable or something was noisier than you expected and just wasn't. It's those little things that add up while you're sitting there that make you start thinking I probably need to call it a day or cut it short. Where if you're doing things correctly, and letting your clothing work for you, you can literally extend your hunt and give yourself more opportunities, which is what we're all after. So,
It's also that mental piece of staying in the fight.
yeah,
It's that's not just the duration either. How many small mistakes have been made because you're more focused on how cold your feet are, or you've started that top to bottom shiver or shake, or your teeth starts chattering because you're so uncomfortable, and then you start moving more, and then you get busted by that target buck that you've been watching on camera all year, or it's
yeah,
November and you don't know what animals are coming through an area now, but because you're so cold or you're so wet and you're so miserable, you're no longer focused on the hunt. You're now focused on your body and how you're feeling, and layering in the right gear, or the using the gear correctly can definitely keep you on edge.
yeah. It absolutely can be a game changer. Um, Take that for what it will. I mean, we obviously sell gear, so we're trying to sell people on this. But I mean, I'd say that about any apparel. I mean, like find the best tech possible and make it work for you. And I think a starting point, just if you're going um, in a regular timeline, early season hunting in the heat is so important as well. I mean, not only can the heat be super uncomfortable and just ruin your day, but it can be downright dangerous too if you're overheating and not letting heat escape from your skin and your body. You can overheat and get in some serious trouble that way, especially on, I hear it all the time on Western hunts, guys that aren't um, used to coming out west early season, where our season's open now, mid-August. It's been 100-degree days here, and you hop up on the mountain and you're working, you're hiking, uh, you're retaining all that moisture and heat, and you can overheat. I mean, it's very dangerous, and we see it all the time. People get airlifted off the mountain because their body's shut down from heat. So um, that's kind of where I'd start, is like telling people, I mean, learn how to dress for the heat and take advantage of fabrics and technologies that are out there that breathe, that wick moisture, and then dry quickly. I mean, that's the most important thing, is getting um, that heat out and that moisture off of you as quickly as possible. And for example, we in our line have something called Cool Touch technology, which is a fabric liner that we put in our early season gear. If you've seen it, I know you have, Aaron, but if you turn it inside out, it's actually a blue lining on our Algus pieces that uh, it's a tech that reacts with your perspiration to actually create a cooling effect on your skin. And it sounds very gimmicky, but it actually is really cool and does work and helps to give you those few additional degrees that can be a game changer. And then we make an entire line called the And Air line, which is our super lightweight stuff, which literally has little perforations in your shirt and in your pants so that air can escape and you can just breathe. It's so important to let that airflow come in and out. It's that can really help extend those early season hunts. And then, um, yeah, dressing for the heat is super important. So I know you've had some early season hunts where you're hiking a lot and have experienced that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of things that I really want to cover in our chat and not breeze over them. One of them is the difference between synthetic and merino wool. So we definitely want to talk about that. But I'm asked a lot, Blake. Hey, Aaron, what's your layering system? And that's, I mean, I'll 100% share my layering system, and my layering system is very simple. It's very effective, and I use it year round. But everybody's so different. My thermal tolerance is different than what yours might be, Blake. And you get 5 or 6 hunters in the room, and all 5 or 6 hunters might have a very different idea or a very different toolbox on their layering system and how they employ it. It takes time. It's not in my opinion, it's not something where you can just walk into Walmart or Bass Pro or get on the Badlands website, say, I'm going to buy all these different products and that's going to be my layering system. Because the reality is, until you get out and you're in the hot early climate or the late really cold wet climate, or those that intermixing time in between those extremes, until you're out really exercising the different layers and the different articles and learning how to run your zippers and venting and when to put things on and when to take things off. It takes time to really get it dialed in. It really does take time. And I can tell somebody, this is exactly what I use, when I use it, and how I use it. And they could buy all the stuff and they could go out and they might be extremely uncomfortable and not enjoy it in the early season, or maybe they go out in the winter season and they're miserable and frozen. So that's the caveat to that I like to share with people. Just because I do something doesn't mean that it's textbook or the right way to do it, but it's spent a lot of years and a lot of hunts and a lot of time in the wilderness perfecting what works for me. But I'm
Sure.
more than willing to share that. But I think the two of the number one things that, or one of the number one things that people need to understand, are the two options, the two camps that are available. And that is a synthetic layering and the merino wool layering. And some guys run all of one or all of the other, or they intermix, or they use different ones throughout different parts of the season. And I think that's definitely something that you should talk about.
Sure. Yeah. and we make both because there are, like you said, there are personal preferences out there. Some people prefer a synthetic, some run all wool. We like to offer both for different reasons. That Algus piece that I was talking about, which I actually did grab one here, you can see the blue lining there, but super lightweight. That's a synthetic. I mean, your synthetics are going to be your polyester type items, and they've come a long way. When you hear polyester, sometimes you think heavy, old, outdated fabric, but there's some polys now that are like that, are super breathable, extremely lightweight, comfortable against the skin, and definitely have their place. They wick moisture pretty well. They dry quickly. So synthetics are a great option for people that don't want to get into a wool. Typically, most days or most pieces now these days are a merino wool just because it's so high performing. That's what all our pieces are. Um, they tend to be maybe a tiny little bit heavier. Even your lightest weight merino is probably going to be a little heavier than some of your synthetics. So for some people, merino wool just might feel a little too heavy for hot weather. But the benefits of a merino wool are so, there's so many that it's hard to argue against it for most situations. I mean, it wicks moisture incredibly, it dries very quickly, and better than a synthetic, it actually retains, or it actually regulates temperature better. So it's a better fabric for keeping you in that sweet spot of drying and cool, or warming and cooling, if that makes sense. So it's better temperature regulation, which is why we probably offer more merino wools than we do synthetics. But
Talk about scent as well. That's a
yeah,
huge thing with the merino compared to especially your base layers for your
yeah,
merino.
exactly. Your next to skin pieces where you're just sweating on it all day long. I mean, a synthetic's going to retain scent more than a merino wool. So merino's great at avoiding absorbing scent. So there are a lot of hunters out there who will be able to go multiple days, although that can sound gross to the non-hunter. I think we've all probably stretched base layer pieces multiple days in the field where we're sweating in them and getting them nice and gross, drying them out at night and throwing them back on in the morning. It's just how it goes a lot of the time. And you can do that with merino because it doesn't retain scent. I mean, give it a week or 10 days, you're probably going to want to throw that puppy in a scent-free wash, but it can get you a long ways in the field just taking a couple of merino pieces with you, and that's going to save you storage space and again have all those benefits of a merino. So I choose different things for different activities. If I'm early season hot, I'm probably running one of our synthetics or and air or our algus. Anything where I want a little more weight, I'm a little more worried about regulating my temperature where there's bigger temperature swings. I'm probably going to our lightest weight merino wool and then working up from there based on where I'm hunting and what time of year. And um, there's, like you were talking about, everybody has different preferences and you're going to get 10 different opinions in a room. That's exactly right. We try to keep our layering education very simple and then let people, like you said, kind of trial and error and dial in from there. So I mean, the most simple of the layering discussion is you're going to talk about base layers, which is just a very simple definition for us as a base layer is going to be your next to skin piece, whether that's a super lightweight piece or a midweight merino wool. I'm still wearing that next to my skin. Drives me insane when somebody spends $120 on a high performance merino wool piece, and then they put it over a cotton t-shirt because they feel like they need to wear something under it because it's a quarter zip or something. It's just that material and that fabric needs to be next to your skin for the tech to come to the forefront and really work. So if you're putting a cotton tee or something under your techie piece, you're basically voiding the performance of that. So we try to educate people not to do that. And as we say, cotton kills. You don't. It's about the worst possible fabric for most applications. Uh, so yeah, you're talking base layers, and then you're talking your mid layer, which is typically your insulation layer. Um, and that's going to be based on how you're hunting. And then you're going to go to your outer layers, which are your protection against the elements. So depending again on where you are, how you're hunting, what time of year, weather conditions, that outer layer is going to change. But base, mid slash insulation layer, and outer is about as simple as it gets. And once you dial in a good set or a couple sets for different types of hunts, different times of year, you can get away with putting 6 to 8 pieces in your closet. You don't need 20 different pieces of something to get by. If you really dial in, really educate yourself in trial and error, you can dial it down to a handful of pieces that'll get you through most situations and even most times of the year if you do it correctly.
I 100% agree. Yep. And Badlands offers all of that. It's a
Yeah.
one-stop shop. Um, and I like I said, I have my system dialed down to where I can go into the backcountry for multiple days. From the very beginning of, I'm typically out early September, and I can run all the way through the end of January, and fit everything in the Mark 6 pack that I need for up to 8 to 10 days. And it's very, again, it is very simple, Blake. But you have to understand what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I've chatted with guys that are going, maybe they're going to go on their first horseback hunt, which you're limited on space and weight, more weight than space, but it is weight based. Or they're going on their first backcountry, on foot, and they're taking a pair of socks for every day, and they're taking underwear for every day, and they're taking 3 or 4 different types of tops. And you don't have to do that. You don't need to do that. It's you can take, if I'm in for 8 10 days, I take 1 maybe 2 pair of merino boxers, and then my layering goes on from there. And I again, I have what I need to get myself through the really hot weather and through the really cold weather. I would say that my favorite garment, and it's actually my favorite Badland item that I own, and I have 4 of them, is
Yeah.
the variant hoodie. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna pull it out here real quick
Yep.
for anybody that's watching this on YouTube that's never seen the variant. This is hands down my most used Badlands item that's currently made. And when I say I have 4 of them, I have 2 medium in the OG camo, I have 1 large in the OG camo, and then I have one in black. The one in black is only used for ground blinds. And then the large is used for in the very late season when it gets really, really cold. And I take the heavy merino base layer top, and I run it underneath my larger marine variant hoodie for that extra layering. And that's typically only used if we're going to go static. Like I backcountry tree saddle hunt, so I'll pack in for miles, and then we'll pitch our camp, and then I'll wagon wheel out from there, and I'll climb trees, and I'll be static, um, sometimes from dark to dark. So I need those layers with me that can keep me warm in that static environment, rather than being more in a spot and stock that you would be out west. So I bought that larger version so that I could fit my extra heavier weight merino top underneath it to give me that additional layer.
Yeah.
Um, a good windbreak and rain protection is key in layering. I don't care what other pieces you have with you. When you get wet and you're in a cold environment, if you don't have a way to keep yourself somewhat dry or rewarm yourself, you're in harm's way. And I have 3 different Badlands rain suits, but I use one the most, and that is the EXO. I think hands down across the market, the EXO is probably the most versatile rain and wind protection on the market. And I'm not saying Badlands market, I'm saying market wide. I've tried several. That's just because it's the weight of the material, it's the breathability of the material. Um, and it comes with a Badlands unconditional lifetime warranty. So if I trash it on a hunt, I know that Badlands is going to work with me on repairing and replacing that rain suit. So when I say that it's the best rain and wind protection on the market, in my opinion, it's a lifetime garment set, and I use it most of the year.
Yeah.
I'll use the bale system early in the year, um, but I'm not a big fan of it because it doesn't breathe that well. But I use it early. I'll use it in the summertime scouting. I might use it late turkey season when it gets really, really warm and I'm running and gunning lightweight. Um, but the EXO is ran most of the year, and then I have the Omega set that I use in late December or January. Again, mostly on those backcountry tree saddle hunts where I know I'm going to be static all day. The Omega's, it's just a little bit heavier, provides a little bit more of that thermal barrier for me, a little more insulation than the EXO does. But for the weight, the durability, the breathability of the EXO, you can't beat that rain suit, that system.
Yeah, that's been a bestseller for us for years, and I think we put a ton of work into not just settling for an average rain jacket. We want to develop something like you said that was actually breathable to a point. I mean, rain gear and breathable don't seem like they go together, but it actually does breathe better than anything else we found. And the face fabric as well. We wanted to make it as quiet as possible, so it actually has a brushed face fabric. That's the quietest rain gear we've found. So yeah, EXO's great. Yeah, we do three rain gear sets. And again, that comes down to understanding how you're going to use them and what kind of conditions you're expecting to encounter. We created the bale set. It's our lightest weight. We call it our emergency rain gear. It's for those downpours that you just need to throw something over the top of everything else. And that shower is probably going to pass in 10, 15 minutes, and then you take it off and pack it back up. It's all highly packable. Barely know it's in your backpack. EXO, step above that, kind of a mid-weight rain gear layer, something takes up a little more room in your pack, but still ultra packable. And versatility wise is going to be good for most things. And then you jump up into that Omega, like you said, which is a heavier weight, kind of our top of the line rain gear, which if somebody calls us and says, hey, I'm heading to Alaska or Canada this time of year, we're like, red flag. Okay, we know it's probably going to rain every single day, and it's going to rain hard, and you're going to need some serious protection for those kind of downpours. So that's Omega. So that's our whole line, not just rain gear, but everything. We want to make something that works for any condition you might encounter. And although it goes against a sales mindset, like you said, we want you to get by with as few pieces as possible that will work for you. There's no reason to buy things you don't need that won't work for you. So dialing in that system and figuring it all out is ultra important. And that does take some trial and error. It takes maybe a phone call to us to talk through some things. We love talking over the phone about gear and educating, and you telling us how you hunt, where you hunt, what time of year you typically hunt, and we're happy to help dial in those systems because there are thousands of options if you start thinking about how everything can match up with something else. And it can be pretty specific, but it can also, if you get the right pieces, can be pretty versatile.
They can, yeah, and you can use them, year round.
Yeah.
Um, Learning how to vent is a big part of that layering system as well. So I like to. That's one of the things that I like about the variant so much that I think makes this article so versatile is the depth of the zipper on your chest. So I wear it again. I wear this thing year round. So it's, like I said, I have a black one for the blind. September 6th is opening day here in Maryland, and I will be sitting in a ground blind. It's going to be 90 degrees out and probably 90% humidity. And I will be wearing a variant hoodie inside that blind. It's going to be a hot box. And I'm going to sweat, but again, it's, the characteristics of merino. I'll be comfortable, and but I can take that zipper and it will unzip all the way down below your xiphoid process. So you can let all of that heat coming off of your torso come up and around your neck. And then vice versa, when I'm wearing that item in the wintertime, when you stop moving, maybe you're glassing, or maybe you're going to set up on an animal, or maybe you're going to sit down in a really nice looking spot and wait for an ambush, or maybe you're going to get up in a tree saddle like some of us weirdos do, and run those zippers all the way up around your neck, maybe throw on a neck gaiter, and now you're capturing all that heat. It doesn't have anywhere to go, so it stays in on your core. And that's a piece of that layering system that I think is really important that a lot of people overlook. And you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing with your rain jackets. You know, when you put a rain jacket on, you can take your beanie off, you can take your neck gaiter off, you can you can run zippers down so that heat has a way to escape when you're moving, when you're active. And then
Yep.
when you become static, then you start putting all those pieces back together, right? You can start pulling zippers up, closing off that airspace. You can put the net gaiter back on. You can put your beanies on, all those places where you're trying to capture or retain heat. Wearing merino boxers. Again, that is a layer that's retaining heat because your body loses and or retains heat in your groin area. That's, if anybody knows anything about first aid, when somebody has hypothermia, or if they have heat stroke, that's one of the places that you either try to cool off or warm up to help regulate that core temperature in a hurry. So your groin
Yep.
area, your armpits, and around your neck and your head, those are the key places that you can really regulate that heat. And through a layering system and utilizing all those tools, you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and people who aren't used to dressing like that is going to be a bit of a change learning how to do that. But yeah, throughout a hunt, especially an active hunt, usually more Western style type stuff, you might be putting things on and taking things off what feels like all day long, but that's just what you need to do. I mean, early morning, you're going to get out there. You're probably going to bundle up a little bit when you get out of your tent. It's pretty crisp, but as soon as you get moving and hiking and start heating up, it's time to dump that outer layer. You're going to throw it back in your backpack. But then you're going to decide, hey, I'm going to sit here and glass for an hour from this mountainside, a little bit of breeze. You're probably going to throw that outer layer back on. And it's going to happen like that throughout the day until the evening when it cools down again, and you'll throw the outer layer back on. And it's just a constant change. And while that might seem like a pain to some people, it really is the best way of helping your body regulate its temperature all day long and stay high performing. I mean, once you're cold or once you're overheated, you're probably done. It's really hard to get back to that level zero once you've gone too far in either direction. So if you can control that throughout the day, you're ahead. And that's how we build our gear. I mean, even with the merino stuff, like you were mentioning, the variant, that's 300 grams of merino wool. And we use what we developed what we call Duraspun merino, which is actually merino fibers and um, why am I blanking on it? A more, yeah, Cordura fibers blended together to get the performance of a merino, but the durability of a Cordura, so our stuff can last longer for you. But yeah, I mean, 300 grams of merino. And then in our Pecora line, it starts at 150 grams in our lightweight, 200 for our midweight, 250 in our heavyweight, and then, like you said, 300 for that variant. So 50 grams of difference in each step up might not seem like a big difference, but it kind of is. And again, that's just trial and error and getting educated on what piece will be good for what situations. But the point there was we try to make something for all body types, all condition types, all hunts. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I think we've probably reached the peak of that topic.
Yeah. For layering or just in general. I mean,
Layering.
yeah, layering. I'd touch maybe if you have a minute, just a little bit on insulation and the importance of that layer. Um, we use a lot of Primaloft fills, and once you start shopping around, you'll notice everything is named something different and has a different amount of fill in it. So again, it's just educating yourself on what a Primaloft Gold Active does versus a Primaloft Silver versus a Primaloft Black. So that insulation layer can be so important, especially as you get into the later seasons. And if you whitetail hunt a lot, like I love to do, figuring out how to stay warm in the tree stand. So, yeah, don't disregard that insulation layer, whether it's an insulated vest or um, our new Rise Pro line, which I grabbed the jacket here. This just launched. Um, we put a new technology in this that we developed called Wind Weave. It's a basically windproof outer fabric and not a membrane that has to go in between other fabrics, which is where you get that crinkly noise you hear in a lot of apparel that can cause problems. This is actually in the fabric itself is a wind stop fabric. So, um, like you said, getting wet and wind can just destroy a hunt. So our new wind weave stuff in our Rise Pro line is just incredible stuff to be able to build a layering system. And in that new Rise Pro line, we did a vest, hoodie, and a jacket. Again, that whole system, our newest gear is based around a layering system. So learning how to use that and adapt on the fly is crucial.
So speaking of Primaloft, however you choose to pronounce that,
Yep.
traditionally Badlands had the High Uintas line, and it was the High Uintas, then it was the High Uintas 2.
Yep.
That's the puffy jacket and puffy vest. You now release the new puffy jacket. Talk about the difference between the HU2 jacket or vest and the new puffy jacket and vest that was launched earlier this year.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a fun one where we get all the backlash of where'd this piece go? Why'd you get rid of this piece? And why is this piece better? So we have to be pretty tight in our storytelling and why we developed something. High Uintas was a great piece. It insulated, kind of gave you what you needed from a puffy jacket or vest, but they were heavy and they were pretty bulky, not super packable, and using a little bit of an older Primaloft type fill. So our goal with these new ultralight packables, which is what we call them, in a jacket and a vest, those were pretty much solely created as mid-layer pieces for insulation factor. So that's why they're not in camo yet. We're working on it, but you're probably throwing an outer layer over the top of that, and it's just being used as insulation. So those have a top of the line Primaloft Gold insulation in them. It, and the better your insulation is, especially in the synthetic insulations, which that's what Primaloft is. It's not a down, it's a synthetic. But the better the quality you get with those insulations, the less of it you have to use for the benefits. So we're able to make that jacket and vest much lighter, much more packable. They pack down to almost nothing to throw in your pack and retain pretty much all the warmth factor of that old High Uintas, which was bulkier, heavier, all around, just a bigger piece. So as technologies evolve, we're trying to find those and build them into pieces to keep you lighter, but just as warm. If we lose performance, we don't want to do that. So we're pretty careful about not dropping a piece if we don't have something that can perform just as good, if not better, which we feel like those ultralight packables do.
Yeah, I always have my puffy jacket with me. I keep it in a compression style dry bag,
Mhm.
and the size difference. So I'm running the new jacket this year on my backcountry hunts. I'm leaving the HU2 at the house, and the size and weight difference is it's big. And
Yep.
some people may look at it, the traditional hunter, tree stand hunter, ground blind hunter guy that's just walking from the truck for a couple of 100 yards or maybe a mile or two and then coming back, may not really look at the difference in that. But when you're putting your life on your back, if you can cut ounces down in different items, um, it all adds up. Um, when you look at the entire load on your back. And I'm really excited to try that new jacket this year. And you brought up the fact that it's in a solid color. It's mud. Um, over the last few years, I've started transitioning to a lot of solid colors.
Mhm.
Almost all of my pants that I choose now to hunt in my outer layers, they're solid colors. I keep a camel pattern mostly on my upper body. Um, but even my pack, my Mark 6 is in OG. And I kind of regret not going with the mud pack. If I could go back and purchase my Mark 6 again, it would be in mud.
Interesting. Yeah, we've seen that shift, and whether it's style or performance or just personal preference. Yeah, we try to make everything available, as much stuff as we can in solid and camo, so the consumer can make that choice. But yeah, we're seeing more and more of that demand for solid color gear, especially like you said on the bottom. So we have a lot of solid pants. Then backpacks, yeah, I mean that's on your back. The camo is probably not as crucially important, but yeah, just giving people options. We want to let them find what will work for them.
Even my my bino harness, if I could go back and do it again, my X2 would be in mud. And I would be wearing a solid pant, and then I would have a camo top, and my bino harness would be mud, and then my Mark 6 would be mud as well, because I'm carrying that Mark 6 all day long.
Yeah,
Even after you wherever you're going to camp for the day, if you're gonna hunt an area for more than 24 hours, you pitch your camp, and then you're still putting your pack on your back so that you can have your game bags with you. I always carry my jet boil. I always carry my Sawyer water system. I always have a daily ration of food. I carry a Rack Addicts killing pad in Hunter Orange because it's a multi-purpose tool for me. I always have cordage, a bone saw, all those things that you're going to have with you. So I always have a pack on my back. But typically, if you're doing things right, I'm facing the animal, so they don't see my pack
right.
anyhow. And I just like the idea of having that solid color pack now. But I look at it as, if I went with a solid color vinyl harness, that's breaking up my pattern. So regardless of what camo pattern I'm wearing up top, my center chest is now broken up from what my shoulders, the lower torso, my limbs are, because regardless of the time of year, Blake, I'm typically wearing long sleeves. I prefer to wear long sleeves.
Hmm.
It keeps that skin covered up. And whether it's having the direct UV rays on my skin, potentially getting a sunburn, or wind protection, or it's you know, cold, a thermal protection if it's colder, or if I'm walking through the brush, I'm not worried about, my arms getting all scratched up. I just prefer that long sleeve. And having tattoos, I mean, I already have natural camo on my arms, but
Right.
I prefer a long sleeve when I'm hunting. And I'm just, in my mind's always working, how can I do it better? Is there something that I can improve upon? And as I've watched the transition back to some of these solid colors, in my mind I'm thinking, if my vinyl harness was mud colored, it's a subdued natural color in the environment, and it would be breaking up that pattern on my upper body even more. And because when you look through the timber, you have all the different natural colors, but through limbs and branches and everything, you have those transitions. And that's where, in my mind, if I could go back and do it again, my at the minimum, my vinyl harness would be mud rather than OG camo.
Sure. Yeah, and that's the
That's
whole purpose of camouflage, right? I mean, and people forget that. People tend to look at a camouflage and say, "Oh, I don't like that. That's not pleasing to my eye," or whatever. That doesn't matter at all if it's pleasing to your eye. I mean, camo first and foremost is made to break up your silhouette against the background. So I mean, the more you can break it up, the more you can be chaotic, the better it is. The last thing you want to be is a solid color blob walking through the woods, because that's the easiest thing to pick out. At the very least, if we're breaking up our silhouette, we can confuse most animals' eyes at least long enough to not get busted. So yeah, that's how we developed our camouflage. We feel like it breaks up the silhouette better than anything else out there at more distances than anything else. A camo might look great at 20, 30 yards, but put it at 50, 60, and it still turns into a big dark blob. That's what we wanted to avoid with Badlands approach camo. And yeah, just break up your outline. That's the most important thing. Sure, there's always the warriors that want to come at us and say, I kill in jeans and a red flannel every year. Well, okay, great. Good for you. Perfect. But we come back with, yeah, but why not give yourself a little bit of advantage if you can? You're not helping yourself by doing that. Let's not kid ourselves. Maybe it works, but we're all about giving as many little advantages as we can that maybe add up into a advantage that gets us an animal on the ground.
It's yeah, my grandfather harvested a lot of animals in blue jeans and a red and black Filson jacket.
Oh yeah, a
That's
lot of
what he
people.
preferred,
Yeah, yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
and for years that's what they did. But if we can do it better, let's do it better. And like you said, Blake, I agree. There are guys out there that say, I don't need all that fancy camo, and you don't need it. But if you have the ability to provide yourself that extra edge, then why not obtain that extra edge? And I've been challenged before on why do Badlands is a higher end um, hunting product company. And I've had people say, well, I can get something at Walmart for $29.99. I'm like, well, that's great. You can. It's not going to be the same quality. It's not going to last as long. And at the end of the season, when that item's ruined, you're going to go buy it again. And over a
Yep.
5-year period, you're going to end up spending more money on a lower quality item that's not working as effectively for you than if you went and purchased one item and you were able to use it for a lifetime, and it provided a better insulation or a better thermal barrier, a better water barrier, a higher end camo, a higher end product. That's the way I look at it. For me, it literally is. It's an investment into my hunting
Yeah,
future.
absolutely. Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier. I mean, our lifetime unconditional warranty is no joke. We don't have small print. We don't have asterisks all over the place where it looks like a lifetime warranty, but then when you read the small print, it says against manufacturer defects. No, there's none of that. It's if a piece fails or has a problem, we're going to fix or replace it for life for free, no questions asked. And we've stood by that for 30 years of the company being around, and we'll stand by it forever. And it goes for socks, underwear, shirts, tees, hats, packs, bino cases. I mean, it's everything with our logo on it. And if we weren't building quality equipment, we wouldn't be here after 30 years with that kind of warranty. So hopefully that gives people a little peace of mind. And what you said exactly right is an investment. And we understand that. We want you to buy the best jacket you've ever had once every 8 to 10 years, not a jacket every single year. So um, it's working. We hope people are enjoying it. And how we started this all off, we want to be here to educate people as much as possible on how the gear can support them on their hunt and in their adventures.
Is there any new item that you want to talk about on this podcast going into the 2024-25 big game season?
Yeah, I mean, this year's releases were a little more whitetail focused. We did launch our Approach GT camouflage this year, which is our third iteration of Approach camo. So now there's OG, which is our original green, FX, which is our fall crossover, which has been more of our late season whitetail pattern in the past. GT stands for ground and timber. It's our darkest pattern we've ever released. We think it's going to be amazing for turkey hunting, tree stand sits. It looks amazing against a bark, tree bark background. And we did it in our early season pieces as well. So you can get the Algus pant, you can get the Algus shirt in the new GT pattern. They just barely launched. Beanie, net gator, all that lightweight stuff. So we think that it's going to be super versatile across the country for all types of hunts. So yeah, just check out Approach GT camouflage. And then that Rise Pro line, which we literally launched last week, is a pant, vest, hoodie, and jacket with that new wind weave technology. It's going to stop wind better than anything you've ever felt. And it's going to be that great layering system for all types of hunts. We're super excited about it. The jacket has an awesome Primaloft fill in it, so it's insulated. None of the other pieces are insulated, but they do have the wind weave. So you throw that vest on over whatever else you're wearing, that's going to stop the wind for you. So super excited about those pieces. And then for the Western style hunter, we have some really cool pieces dropping next year. So we'll just tease that a little bit, but we'll have to hop back on here with you and debut those when they're ready.
Okay. Are some of that Western stuff, is it pack related or is it clothing line related or both?
A little bit of both. So there will be a new addition to the MRK line.
Ah,
That 3 going away, we'll be filling in that gap between the 2 and the 6 with a new addition to that line. And then a jacket we're working on, I feel is going to be the best jacket we've ever released. It's kind of your quintessential soft shell jacket that can just do it all. So we've put a ton of time and development into that piece. I was actually supposed to launch this year, but it wasn't quite right, and we wanted it to be perfect. So we put it back in development, testing it heavily this season, and then we'll release it next season.
okay.
So that piece, and then a really cool piece called the Draw hoodie that's kind of made for with the bow hunter in mind. So some bow hunting specific features built into a hoodie that's just going to be an awesome piece.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Um, one other thing that I want to ask about is, we used to have a lot of different things happening on social media platforms with Badlands, not necessarily doing like weekly stuff, but it was almost a monthly thing. Is there anything on the horizon that we can look forward to as Badland fans?
Yeah, we're currently renovating our entire video studio. So I'm excited to get back into just putting out a bunch of video. More educational type videos so that when we do launch something like Rise Pro, you can hop on and see a video of us going over the features, what everything does. And then that studio is also being renovated to relaunch our Rack Attack YouTube series, which we've done for several years now, off and on, hoping to get back to consistency with it. But yeah, people seem to like me standing in front of the camera and being an idiot. So we're going to get back to consistent Rack Attack episodes with a brand new studio, a new opening, new features, and again, that show lives on our YouTube channel, Badlands Rack Attack. People can go watch 30 plus episodes right now if they want, but we have some fun. We keep it lighthearted, but we also do touch on gear, new gear features. We take questions from people from the previous episode and answer them on the next one. So it's just a real fun place to interact, have a little bit of fun. Sometimes we might showcase a hunt that we've been on or something, or I'll just stand up there and complain about things for a couple minutes that I'm annoyed about in the hunting world. So it's fun, and we're excited to bring that back, hoping to have a new episode ready to go in September.
Are you going to have any co-hosts that you used to have? You used to do some shows with Tim Ensley. Are you going to have any hosts in the future?
Yeah, I think we want to find a way to do more of that, whether it's talking remote like this with people that might be out of state, or if somebody's in state, maybe we can have them in the actual studio with us. We have a newer gal named Jocelyn here who I'm going to try to get in front of the camera to talk more about women's hunt and women's gear. So yeah, we want to feature more voices, more people. And yeah, if you're coming to Utah, you better tell me so I can schedule a Rack Attack to get you on.
So I will be visiting Utah in September, and then I'll be back out in February for sure.
There
But
you go.
I don't
There
know if February will lend to a Rack Attack, but if you want to make time, I'll definitely make time.
No, we're gonna try to do them at least one a month. So yeah, should be a lot of fun.
Excellent. It's been seeing Badlands traveling a little bit more in 2024 compared to the last few years. That's been pretty exciting from an end user standpoint.
Yeah, we made a concerted effort this year to do more consumer shows and less trade shows, which your typical trade shows limited to people in the trade in the industry. So there's so many of these good consumer shows now that we're actually shifting our focus to do more of those so people can actually come the public can actually come interact with us, look at the product, and actually walk away with some product if they want to buy something. So yeah, we did a bunch more this year, and we're looking to add even more in 25. So we'll pull our show schedule together and launch that out across social media so people can see where they might be able to come visit and hang with us at, whether it's the Turkey Show in Nashville or the Iowa Deer Classic or Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania. We're going to hit as many places as possible to help people get their eyes on the gear.
Love it. That's great news.
Yep. Yep. Exciting.
Excellent. All right. Well, Blake, we've been at it for about an hour. Do you want to, not that we really need to tell people where they can find Badlands at, but do you want to throw a quick plug out where people can find Badlands, and then we'll wrap it up?
Yeah, absolutely. Online, badlandsgear.com is where you can find all about us. Also, our social channels, we're pretty active on Facebook, Instagram. We're growing a TikTok following, and then YouTube. Our YouTube channel is great for educational videos, product videos, and then some entertainment stuff as well. I'll also say we don't just sell online. We love our Badlands dealers. We have hundreds of Badlands dealers across the country. Dealer locator on our website, so you can find who's carrying Badlands nearest to you. And our preference, honestly, is that you go find a dealer, pop into their shops, support them. A lot of these are small businesses, archery shops, bow shops, smaller gear shops. We'd love for you to support us through them first and foremost if you can. And yeah, tell them we sent you and tell them what you want to see on their shelves, and they'll order it up. That's the best way to experience any type of gear, is get your hands on it, try it on, feel it, put a backpack on your back with some weight on it. You can't beat that. So yeah, visit any of our dealers nationwide or us at badlandsgear.com.
Excellent. Thanks, Blake. For the listeners, you guys know where to find Limitless Outdoors and the Limitless Podcast. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel. All of the podcasts. Not only do we have audio on all the major podcasting platforms, but we do launch all of the videos on the YouTube channel, Limitless Outdoors. You can go to the website, limbitless.outdoors.com. And that's where I'm at. Shoot me an email, direct message me if you have any questions. And when it comes to today's episode, if you want to chat about layering, I will nerd out and share with you what I do, how I use it, and what works for me. And I'm, like Blake said, if you call them on the phone, not only do they have a very entertaining message while you're sitting on hold, it sounds like an old miner from out west. They will answer all of your questions the best that they can and try to get you lined up with the best gear. So with that said, again, Blake, thanks for spending time with me today. I know you're a super busy man, and I look forward to seeing you guys face to face again here in the near future.
Thanks, Aaron. Really enjoyed it.
You bet. Be limitless, Blake.
You too, man.